Hi. Um, so I'm not entirely sure what I just saw. I mean, I know what I just saw. I'm not quite sure what I just saw. So I went and saw this film called The Dressmaker, which I just heard about today when I kind of pulled up the movie listings and checked Ridgeway here and said, okay, let's see what's playing, so I can maybe if I want to do a review tonight, what's playing. And as is kind of my custom with these things, I find the film that I've never heard of, and I'm like, okay, let's see what that's about. So I watched the trailer, and it looks pretty funny, it looks pretty good. So I'm like, all right, what the hell? Let's give this a shot. And I got no clue what I just witnessed. So if you haven't heard of this movie, and I'm not surprised if you haven't. I mean, I heard about it today when I was checking movie times. So Kate Winslet, it's an Australian film, first off. So Kate Winslet plays this woman, Tilly, who as a child, first of all, I'm sorry, let me back up, let me try to make this a little bit clearer. So Kate Winslet is this girl, she comes from this, really, middle of frickin' nowhere town in Australia, and I really mean, the place looks like a frickin' trash dump. And years ago, when she was a child, she was involved in an incident which she doesn't remember, where this boy was killed. And everyone says she killed him, says she murdered him. She doesn't remember it. So she ended up being sent away. And now it's however many years later, she went on and became this great seamstress and this great clothing designer. And she comes back with the intent of kind of taking care of her mother, who's gone a bit nutty, and just kind of sticking it to the whole town, basically. And this is one of the problems with this movie, is that as I sit here trying to give you a recap of it, the film goes off on so many different directions, and I'm starting to wonder if that's like an Australian thing. Every culture kind of has its tropes and its the style that it's kind of known for. And I haven't seen many Australian movies outside of Baz Luhrmann films. I don't know of many others, but his stuff, plots and characters and tones jump around all at once, and then try to come back together to make some kind of cohesive story. And I'm looking at this one, and boy, the tone and the story are all over the place. Because at one point they want you to feel like it's this, very stylized dark comedy, which is what it plays itself up as in the first chunk. And then it becomes kind of this much more serious, much more dour little murder mystery. Is trying to figure out what happened to this kid, and then that stops, and then throughout that there's this very smoldering, and I use that term, smoldering kind of love story with Kate Winslet and Liam Hemsworth as some, as your typical, hi, I'm from the poorest family in town. We have no means of bathing or proper toilet facilities, and yet I am the most gorgeous man you will ever lay eyes on. It's that kind of romance novel stuff, and that's going on throughout it. And then it takes this really almost melodramatic turn where suddenly everyone in Kate Winslet's life is dropping dead, and through the whole film, she has this whole belief that she's cursed, and these people keep dropping dead in a style that is almost, it's so melodramatic, it's almost comical. And then it switches to pure up comedy with bumping people off. And like I said, the tone is just everywhere on this film. And man, it really makes it hard to get a grip on it, not just to kind of tell about it, but to formulate coherent thoughts about. So let's talk about what works, because there's a lot really good about this movie. First of all, I think the style and the look of it are amazing. Obviously it's a movie about a dress designer, clothing designer. You better have some really nice looking clothes, and I mean they do. The costuming in this is gorgeous. It's one of those films that you're looking at going, okay, this needs an Oscar nomination for costume design. I mean, it's flipping phenomenal. I don't know much about women's clothing, but I know what looks good, and damn, the people in this film look good. Because that's part of her thing. She comes back, does Kate Winslet, and very slowly, they never quite let you in if this is like a plan she had, or if this is just something that kind of happened on accident, or what. But she starts like, obviously she comes back and everybody in this town hates her. So then she kind of starts suddenly dressing them, and then they love her all of a sudden, and then stuff happens and they hate her again. It's this really kind of weird roller coaster. So anyway, the costuming and the look and everything is really, really well done. And I gotta say, a lot of the acting is really spot on and really fantastic. Kate Winslet, I think, is really one of our finest working actors out there today. I really enjoy Kate Winslet's work, which is funny when you consider that the first movie I ever saw her in was one of the movies I hate more than just about any other film out there, Titanic. So I find that kind of interesting. But I even though I hate that movie, I like her in it. I like Kate Winslet a lot. Well, I like the red from the stoplight here giving me this kind of red on my face, look like I'm going to hell. Which, I mean, let's be honest. Anyway, so she is really good in this. I remember when I went and saw Independence Day Resurgence, I kind of blasted Liam Hemsworth a lot for not having the same charisma as his brother, and I got to take some of that back. I think he did a good job in this movie. He did a good job being cast as exactly what you think Liam Hemsworth would be cast as. I mean, seriously, the dude looks like he just came off of a romance novel, and he acts like a character in a romance novel. And he does a really good job of it. He knows when to be soft. He knows when to be sweet. He is literally. I'm going to sound very sexist here, and I apologize for that right off the top. But I mean, he literally feels like every woman's fantasy dude right now. Rugged and yet gentle, understanding. I'll always protect you, and yet I don't want to own you. So it's like, you can tell he's like the dream guy. I mean, and let's face it, he's a good-looking guy. I mean, I can't fault him. So he's good in this. He plays that typecasting to the hilt. The only thing I will say is that they kept trying to play up that Kate Winslet and Liam Hemsworth were both kids at the same time. And, I don't check, facts when I do these reviews. So if what I'm about to say is actually a lie, then, somebody can call me on that later. But I'm fairly certain Kate Winslet is into her 40s, and Liam Hemsworth is still in his he's in his 20s somewhere, I think. And this is not, I don't mean this as a demeaning term, but they both look it. He looks young, she looks like a more mature woman. And that's not to say she's ugly, it's not to say mature women are hideous. I mean, believe me, if there's anybody who knows better than that, it's me. Trust me on that. But they don't look like they were kids at the same time. She looks, they try to make her look younger, but it's like, no, she is clearly, she's a mature woman. And even if they played it up like she was a mature woman and he was 20, I wouldn't have had a problem with that. I don't see a problem with, older woman, younger man kind of thing. But, don't come at me with this. Nah, they were kids together. It's like they weren't. You know, maybe she was babysitting him, but yeah, no, she was. They were kids at the same time. So anyway, but they both do a good job. Hugo Weaving is in this, and he is kind of the character. I wish they'd given him a movie all to himself. So he plays like the local sheriff, who they never come out and say is gay, but who is like obsessed with clothes and fashion and loves wearing dresses and hats. You know, he's flamboyant, let's say. And his character is utterly charming and underplayed, you know, understated. It wasn't one of these throw it in your face kind of things. It's one of the few performances in here that's not thrown in your face. And he's one of the few tones of this movie that's consistent, you know. Plus, I mean, it's kind of fun, especially considering that Hugo Weaving is kind of like Sean Bean in that anytime you see him in a movie, you keep expecting him to turn out to be the bad guy, just because that's what you know him as. You know, I don't care about Lord of the Rings. I mean, he was still kind of a dick in that, too. So you keep expecting him to do something horrible. I remember I went and saw a movie one time, you know, years ago on a date. You know, that should tell you why I'm still single. Went with a girl to see this movie with, I want to say Charlize Theron, but I don't think so. Where she's like some coal miner, you know, and all the guys at the coal miner sexually harassing her, and she ends up suing them and all this. And in that movie, her best friend is married to Sean Bean. And like the whole time, I'm sitting there going, okay, Sean Bean's her husband. That means at some point he's going to try to rape Charlize Theron. At some point he's going to do something dickish. At some point. Like, no, he was actually a really nice guy in that movie. And it was really shocking. I was like, okay, now my world's turned topsy-turvy. You know, that's kind of the same thing here. I know Hugo Weaving more from just playing villains and really, really great villains. At that, he was the only thing I liked about the Matrix movies. And yet, no, he's very funny and very sweet. And there's the sweetness to him. And like I say, this would have been a character that would have been so easy to just go nuts. But he underplays it, and I think that is to the film's advantage. Like I say, it's funny that character is one of the only things of this movie that doesn't get like overplayed at a certain point. So yeah, and the actress, Julie Davis, I think is the actress's name, who's playing Kate Winslet's mother in this, and she does a really nice job with it. So the acting of this movie is really well done. Like I say, the look of it is really good, but man, the tone is just all over the place, and maybe that wouldn't have bothered me so much if the movie came in a little shorter. It feels like this movie came to a logical conclusion. Like the film came to a logical conclusion when they discover the truth about how the boy died all those years ago. I'm trying to do this without giving spoilers away, but some spoilers are going to be given away. So just, if you're thinking about going and seeing this movie, you know, stop this review right now, go see it, and then come back and, you know, see what I have to say. But I'm going to try to stay away from some of the bigger ones. So after they kind of figured out what actually happened to this kid, that's when you're thinking, okay, resolution. We now know. She now knows. And we're good here. You know, we can move on. No, the movie sticks around and it kills off Liam Hemsworth for being a dumbass. You know, he does some really stupid, that kind of thing where you're like, you know, any thinking person would not have done this. And he did. And you're like, well, yeah, he died. He was being a fucking dumbass. And yet Kate Winslet's like, oh, I'm cursed. It's my fault. It's like, no, it's really not your fault. So then he dies. And then they kill off her mother. Again, spoiler, sorry. But that one you kind of see coming. You know, and the whole time, you know, it's like, wow. So this movie just kept going after a logical ending point just so it could repeatedly keep kicking Kate Winslet's character in the metaphorical balls. you know? It's like it just kept going. And then, like I say, then all the townspeople who were ever mean to her start getting, hurt or killed or stuff in increasingly comical fashion. And you're like, okay, again, the tone has shifted. And then they have this one guy who's like the quote-unquote villain of the piece. And again, I don't want to give too much away in case you want to see this. But he's like the villain of the piece, the guy who ended up ordering her to be sent away when she was a child. The guy who's like having affairs all over the place. He's doping his wife up with some of that old-fashioned, cure-all tonic, which is really just 90%, opiates. So he keeps doping her up so that he can either have sex with her while she's knocked out, gross, or sleep around with everybody. So then, like, after they kill off like a couple characters in this really overly comic fashion, his wife like fucking goes Friday the 13th on him. It's like a Saw movie suddenly. And it's not saying that it's like, she does anything like incredibly, which like slashes his ankles and leaves him there bleeding out. And it's like, for a film that had not had that, that it just had two really comical, it's funny, it had two really, what were supposed to be really like heartfelt deaths. I say supposed to be because, again, I think Liam Hemsworth's character's death was like comical because he was being stupid. But they had two deaths that you're like, oh, that's really sad. And then they had two that it was like, oh, okay, that's just wacky and like very cartoony. And then you have this one that's like, shit! It's like, dude. And then, when you had that, again, that weird tonal shifts, that coming out of nowhere was just like, holy crap! I'm also thinking this is a movie I'd kind of like. The only reason I'd like to see it again is that they make mention, like, all through the film of Kate Winslet saying, I'm cursed, I'm cursed, I'm cursed. And in this big kind of final Godfather-esque, getting revenge on the whole town thing, the town is doing this competition with another town, like this theater competition. And the play that the people from this town that Kate Winslet is from want to do McBee. And any theater person out there, especially if any of my students are watching, you should know this, McBee is cursed. So I would kind of like to go back and watch this film again now, knowing that connection is in there, and go, okay, how much of this kind of follows McBee? Are there more references that I didn't notice because I wasn't looking for them? Or does it kind of follow? Because, having that strong woman in there who kind of, battles with, insanity and guilt over what she's done and all that, that is a parallel with Lady McBee. You could make that argument. So it'd be interesting to see if there's any other kind of parallels in there. But I'll be honest, that's kind of the only reason I think I'd probably watch this movie again. It wasn't bad. I want to say that right away, is that it was not a bad movie. It just, again, so many plot threads, so many different tones, so many quick shifts. And again, I'm starting to think that's like an Australian thing. But if they had taken one of those tones and stretched that out for the entire movie, instead of feeling like you had to go off on all these different ones, then I think this would have been a great movie, and I would be sitting here telling you what an awesome film this was. Whichever one they wanted to go with, because whichever tone they went with, it was good in that moment. The smoldering love story was like an old-fashioned kind of romance, and I like those. I'm sorry. And that was really good. And the dark comedy stuff and the kind of the she-demon coming back for vengeance storyline, all those were played up really good, or really well, speak proper English. But the constant shifts and everything made it impossible for me to really get invested in anything. And then when I would get invested, I'm like, oh, okay, great, all right. Then it would shift up again, and then you go, I'm not sure if I'm supposed to take this seriously. Because all the stuff with Liam Hemsworth was played up very straight, very serious. And then it gets goofy when all these other things happen. You're like, these two things don't feel like they exist in the same world. Like I say, this is something I notice a lot in Baz Luhrmann films, but Baz Luhrmann somehow pulled it off, in my opinion, at least in most films. So yeah, not a terrible film. Nothing that I think I can sit here and go, oh, damn, that's really bright. No, sorry. Nothing I can sit here and go, oh, yeah, run out and go see this. I can't get good reflection in here. Sorry. Yeah, I love it. I got like 5 seconds worth of dialogue you left, and I spent much of it trying to do that. Priorities. Anyway, so now I'm left in that hard place of, do you recommend this? And I want to say yes, but I can't. I guess I didn't like it. I guess when you get right down to it, I didn't like it. But I think there's interesting enough things in there, and there's enough good stuff in there that someone could go to see this and enjoy it, and get something more out of it. I wish they would have stuck with one thing or the other or the other or the other instead of bouncing around all over the place. I wish they would have kind of committed to something. And then I'd probably be sitting here going, yeah, awesome. Sadly, though, I think that Australian thing just kind of happens, and it doesn't work for me. But great costume design and great acting. So if you go see this movie, go and see it for the phenomenal costume designs. A friend of mine, one person I know who watches these, and you know who you are. Yeah, you'd love the costumes in this vintage 50s stuff. You would love it, and you'd probably look really good in it. So I'm sending that little shout out to the one person I know who actually watches these videos. So yeah, the costuming's great. The acting's really good, so you can go and kind of get and see Kate Winslet turn in a really good performance, and Hugo Weaving, Liam Hemsworth, Julia Davis. They do good work. But yeah, not my cup of tea. So that's it for me. So fall break coming up in a week. I'm really excited. I don't know if anything's coming out, but I'm looking forward to spending a lot of time at the movies and doing a couple more of these and stocking them up. So I'm hoping to do a nice week at the movies. Maybe that's the thing I'll do. Like I'll try to do a movie a day. If they have that many out that I can stomach. Anyway, so that'll be exciting. I'm looking forward to it. So until then, drive safe. See you at the movies.